here to talk about the future of mobile. Correct? Correct. Before we do that, Stefan, I would like you to bring us up to speed. What is the present of mobile? What are your clients telling you about what they want to do in mobile today? What are their frustrations?
So I think at the moment, certainly over the last 2 years, what we've seen is a kind of shift away from talking about mobile and talking about mobility. And I think that's a really interesting shift from a marketing perspective, because when you talk about mobile, you're thinking about the device. It's very device-centric. When you think about mobility, it becomes much more user-centric. So you start to think about really understanding the audience, how mobile fits into their everyday lives, how they interact with content, how they use it to communicate. You start to think much more about context as well, so where that device is being used, which brings into play much more of the kind of location angle as well. And then the final thing it does when you think about mobility is you start to think about how your mobile strategy integrates with the rest of your kind of communications. So how you take somebody from an outdoor poster through to a mobile device via a QR code or augmented reality or whatever it might be. So I think the biggest shift I think that we've seen kind of strategically is less talking about mobile, more talking about mobility. And I think still one of the biggest challenges that our brands face at the moment is around accountability. Accountability of mobile, actually working out how effective it is at driving sales either in retail or online or mobile.
What are you seeing today? What are your clients telling you they want to do in mobile?
Yeah, a lot of it is quite similar to what Stefan said. So for us, I think there's a coming maturity now of the medium. And the first phase of just trying lots of things without quite knowing what's going to happen is coming to an end. I 100% agree with the point on context. I think if the web was about a world where content is king, old saying, and mobile is all about context, understanding the time of day of the consumer, where they are, what they're doing, all the other things your phone can do, because there's never been a device so personal, so plugged into so much about your life. I mean, people share so much with their mobile that the phone knows. And for us, all our clients are asking us to make the most use of that context, to build products and services that can absolutely solve problems right in the here and the now and the present. And you see the mega mobile success stories. I think Uber's been discussed a lot in this conference, and they understand exactly how to give you the ultimate problem-solving tool for getting me from here to here right now in the way I want. And we see that push across all sectors. So we work with a bunch of different clients who are all trying to disrupt. I guess the commonality would be contextual, intuitive visual interface. Yeah, that's probably the biggest two.
Stephen, where are we going with ad formats? I mean, the banner is just a terrible ad format for mobile. What's going to replace it? Is there anything? Is display ads even an important medium for mobile?
Yeah, so I think the banner ad is about 20 years old now, and as you say, I think it's time to kind of move on from that. I think it's really held us back on mobile today. And one of the key things that venture capitalists or innovators say drive massive change is when you have an order of magnitude improvement, moving from one experience or thing to another experience. And what we're seeing is the development of full screen ads are now becoming very, very widespread at a massive scale, and those are increasingly very rich or even video ad units. And when you go from a banner to a full screen ad, you see often 10 times increase in performance, or even comparing a rich media banner to a full screen rich media, even 25 times increase in performance. So we think that one of the things that held back mobile advertising was the lack of being able to leverage effective ad units. And that isn't just about creating a greater interaction, that's also about being able to communicate something, because you just can't really say much in a tiny little banner. Or you can just about write your name and you can't really even usually see that. I think about the example, if I had a super relevant ad on a banner saying, "Hi Mum," on her birthday from me, she probably wouldn't see it. Whereas if I put a full screen video in front of her waving and saying, "Hi Mum, happy birthday," she's going to phone me that second. So you start to see some breakthrough in performance driven around formats, and we're particularly interested in this video piece in massive scale.
you talk about video and mobile. You've got Facebook taking significant TV budgets, putting them in in-stream video ads that autoplay. You're talking about full screen mobile ads. I mean, is the future really, you think, about turning the phone into a television?
Yeah.
I think actually from an advertising point of view, the great thing that we're now seeing is that you don't need it to be a television in order to play a video ad. So online video was held back. It was held back because it was predominantly pre-roll, which meant that you had to be watching video, which was only a small part of the time you're spending on your desktop. Whereas when you can put a full screen video almost anywhere in any experience, whether or not you're accessing a newspaper or messaging, etc., or on social media, that's where it can become a massive scale medium in the same way that TV brand advertising is. And marketers get video, they understand it. It's built their brands for 70 years. So when you're talking to a CMO of Coca-Cola or something, he's going to understand that there's a really strong effect from getting video in front of people and understanding who watched it, when, etc., compared to talking to him about, hey, can we run a banner and then maybe drive people to some site to get a really rich experience? You've kind of lost him already, So
Facebook's interesting you mentioned there, though, because I think if you look at their really high-performing units now, the app install is a huge thing for them, because actually they're going to get people into what we love, which is a little problem-solving tool, or as we call it, an app. So if I can get you into straight download into something that businesses spent all that time and money building to be a beautifully crafted product, then that's a huge conversion, a hugely important source of Facebook's revenue now in mobile.
So Facebook, Twitter, very focused on app install ads.
Yeah.
It seems like a very narrow use case for mobile, yet it's totally driving the business right now.
Completely.
What do you make of that? And when we move beyond it?
I think if you look at Facebook, so we started talking about native ads, right? So native ads represent probably 40% of your mobile spend at the moment. And when you start to think about
what do you mean by native ad? Like
a native ad being something that is designed is similar to the publisher, both in terms of form and function, is how I would describe a native ad. But I think where the biggest, we're talking about the future of mobile. When you think about the future, you start thinking about video. Really, the really kind of massive opportunity is for brands, publishers like Facebook, to start to pull together not just the mobile platform, but the data they have and the format. So you think about where that would lead to as far as video advertising goes. There is more conversation about TV programs on Facebook than on Twitter by a magnitude of about 3. And they haven't even started to turn that into targeting yet. So when they combine the mobile platform with maybe an advertising package targeting those people that are talking about the TV program that you're sponsoring, and then you can add on top of that the video format, you have something that's incredibly powerful. So my view on kind of Facebook is that they're really only scratching the surface at the moment with native ads. When they start to combine the whole piece, you'll see a whole other kind of step change in their revenue.
I remember a few years ago, someone very, very high up in Group M told me that we can see the world, we can track everyone as they move about the web, and then they go on their phones and become invisible to us. And that was a big point of stress for him at the time. Has that been sorted out? I mean, is measurement still a big issue?
It's still probably the biggest thing. I think we've solved the format issue, probably with native, and then that's kind of changed things. Measurement is still the single biggest issue. And if you think about why that is, it's because cookies, the traditional metric way of measuring the effectiveness of advertising is cookies. In the mobile space, certain browsers default to not allowing cookies. Most of the behaviour is in-app, where cookies don't really exist either. So you need a different form of measurement. There are 2 real solutions to this, I think. One is what we call deterministic approach to measuring, where you're using the login ID of a business like Facebook or Microsoft or whatever to track that person across platform. And the other really interesting one that's kind of gaining a bit of momentum now is probabilistic tracking, which is where you use something called device recognition, where you're looking at the signals from each device where your advertising is placed, whether that be the browser settings, how many apps they've got installed, and you use those individual points of data to assess whether that is the same phone or the same device or the same person. So those are the kind of the two things, but it's probably the biggest single challenge for ad spend moving into mobile.
Is it the case where he who has the biggest logged-in audience gets the spoils for mobile? That's what's going on?
I don't know. I mean, login is important. It's important for cross-platform, but I think that there are ways of measuring as well, right? And the app audience can be measured through advertiser IDs, and I think Google and Apple have really neatly solved privacy issues around being able to have a very simple control from the user side. So I think that measurement is there. I think that format has only just come through. I mean, it sounds crazy, but if I went back just over a year, you'd probably find very few full-screen ads in classic sort of premium publishers, and now they probably all have them. So that format piece, I think, will drive a lot of uptake, but I think advertisers have to work harder as well. I mean, the speed at which this market is moving, the speed at which we're spending time on our mobile devices is not being reflected in a kind of energy from the advertising industry to pursue this opportunity. I think that new strategies need to come from deep inside organizations. When you look at companies like eBay or Amazon who have built fantastic mobile products, they had mobile-first sponsors, mobile-first departments who were literally told by their CEOs, forget what the rest of the business says, you go do it, make it happen. And I think that kind of thinking needs to be brought urgently to a lot of the big brands, because they're going to start to see their competition, who exploit it more effectively, moving much, much faster.
Which is a discussion that we're having now. You see the big brands are treating mobile as a separate division, department, and point of passion and interest from web, because it's so much more ubiquitous device. There's nothing else that's with you all the time. Before even thinking about shopping, right through the kind of purchase funnel or user journey, however you want to lay out your path to get people to spend time and engage with you. Mobile's there throughout. Browsing, recommending, choosing, buying, purchasing, advocacy, you name it. So it does take a different mindset to tackle that challenge, rather than look at it as a kind of niche part of an e-commerce journey or something like that.
I mean, people really spend pretty much 100% of their lives on their phones, swiping, in apps, surfing, using different functions. Sheryl Sandberg surprised me. She said that Facebook, the marketers she talks to, that they're only committing 11% of their budgets to mobile. Why is that, do you think?
I think it's one of those. You read lots of different stats. People check their phone 150 times a day. Millennials, it's more, whatever. But it's not a kind of full-time engagement. So watch anybody watching TV, and they're watching TV plus phone plus tablet plus laptop sometimes. How you understand what people's attention are is a really big challenge. And I guess in the kind of media targeting identity space, you guys must have some way of dealing with percentage value of attention on screen.
I think humans are not very good at dealing with exponential growth, right? And when it's 5%, everyone thinks it's nothing. And then it's 10%, and they still think it's small. Then it's 20%, and it's still kind of small. Then it's 40, then it's 80. And the speed at which that exponential growth can rip through a market means that you need, top-down organisational change to drive budget changes that Cheryl's talking about. With I think this year now, eMarketer says the US market will be 10% mobile. So mobile has now leapfrogged, or should have leapfrogged, magazines, newspapers, radio, outdoor cinema, as the third medium. So it's big, it's got scale. But people need to bring a sense of urgency to keep up with this exponential growth that's happening. It caught people out on the internet, it catches big companies out again and again. I mean, look at Nokia, just taken out by the inability to handle internet and touchscreen, relatively. So I think these exponential growth markets need extreme, kind of priority from senior management.
They'll probably fall kind of market by market or sector by sector. So we work with, you can probably tell from my name, we work with a bunch of financial technology companies or banks. And if you look at how people choose to engage in banking now, I'll take a UK stat where our HQ is. People are in a branch about once or twice a year. They're online maybe twice a month, and they're in their mobile app probably 30 times a month. So, it's the primary method of engaging. to go to India or somewhere and it's the primary method of engaging with the internet, it is the personal computing device. So you'll see that there are countries or there are sectors where huge investment will go. I suspect leaders in other sectors or fields will kind of spot that and try and follow.
Yeah,
That's the way it'll ripple out.
I chair the Mobile Marketing Association as well. We work with big brands like Unilever and Coca-Cola to do econometric studies to actually tell them for each dollar spent, how much return on investment will they get from that. So they're starting to see it, and they're these very analytically driven businesses. They're starting to see the evidence points for increasing mobile spend. And we need more of that and a faster learning cycle, I think, is a key.
I don't want you guys to get away without talking about privacy for a minute. The big story in New York, company had installed beacons throughout the city, in city payphones, or what used to be called payphones, right? It seems like the brave new world for mobile is also a creepy one sometimes for consumers. Where do you draw the line, and how do you sort of manage that? Just gonna throw it out there.
My view is that actually privacy on mobile is better than desktop. You as I say, Google and Apple have very simple opt-in and opt-out on the handset that couldn't be more straightforward. And you get some issues around some of the data that can be collected, particularly location data that could start to be personally identifiable. I think consumers can be, and this is more personal view, can be strange creatures. If you ask them about privacy and explain something to them, then they can get creeped out in your words. I think when they get creeped out in the normal course of the day is if you actually show them that you've somehow used that data without asking them for permission. When Amazon creates products like saying, would you like to know things that we recommend for you, then that's fine. It's a very clear opt-in. Where you start to have problems around that is when you start retargeting consumers, where you start showing that you've seen what they've been doing and yet you haven't asked permission. So I think that there is obviously the legal concerns that need to be dealt with, and then there's the consumer experience. How do we make customer experience acceptable from a privacy point of view? Because a lot of those concerns disappear really quickly when you ask them to sign up to Apple or to Google. They'll scroll through 15 pages of T's and C's, check straight away to access the service. So they don't care that much, but they care when they hear either stories of things being done badly, or they experience something directly that's showing them that you've been looking at what they've been doing without asking their permission.
It's all about a fair value exchange. So if you're people now, I think, understand that a lot of their personal data is leaving them and is out there in the ether. And that's kind of okay, or maybe it's not okay for some people, but it's going to happen. I think if you're going to come in and use that data to market to someone, the nearer you are to providing a really useful service, the better. So I care about Yplan, the kind of last-minute ticketing company, knowing where I am, because they're giving me better ticket deals to go to tonight. If it's a brand coming in to go, hey, I'm going to interrupt you in your life and try and sell you something that you're not per se looking for, then the value exchange becomes quite skewed. And the guidance for me, because it will change depending on which sector it is, there's no more personal device. It's only that big, or maybe that big now, and it lives in your pocket with you all day. So if you come into someone's world, into that screen, you have to make sure you're being really